Today on Smart Talks, we have the honor of speaking with Cami Johnson, a brave survivor whose story is a powerful testament to strength, survival, and the will to reclaim one's life. Held against her will and drugged in an unimaginable act of domestic violence, Cami's journey is one of enduring trauma and choosing hope. In this episode, Cami shares her story not only as a survivor, but as an advocate and example of the courage it takes to speak out. We are humbled to welcome Cami and amplify her voice as a part of our continued mission to bring hope for survivors and empowerment for all. Please note that this episode contains depictions of domestic violence and trauma. Please take care of yourself and visit our website for hotlines and resources if needed.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Smart Talks. Today is very special as we have a survivor in-house with us, and I just want to remind everyone we do talk about very difficult topics. It is very personal, but sharing these stories are important because it helps us to learn, it helps us to create connection, it helps us realize that these situations are not so far removed from us. I don't know how many stories I've personally heard that I thought, wow, that so could have easily have been me. That so easily could have been me. And so this is a great place to not just hear people's stories, but to also be able to create conversations within your own home to discuss with your own family, because these situations aren't just happening in back alleys or in the middle of the woods, in the middle of the night. These situations happen to everyday kind of people, good people, happy people, or what looks like happy people. So just keep that in mind and listen respectfully. Thank you. So Cami, thank you so much for joining us today. It's really is, I genuinely do mean, like, sharing stories are so important, is so important, because I really do believe it, like, helps people learn, helps people relate. Like, it's easy to disassociate, I feel like, from numbers, but when you hear people's specific stories, you're like, wow, that really could have been me, or wow, that situation is so similar to my own. I do think it is so powerful. So I just want to say thank you right off the bat for being willing to come and join us today.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And what an inspiration you are to so many of us.
Oh, well, thank you. So just diving right in, can you share a little bit about yourself and your story as much as you're comfortable?
Yes, absolutely. So my name's Cami, and I am a survivor. And I think that is exactly what you just said, like so many times, that we just think it's a stranger that this happens to, that this is somebody, and especially in my case, and I think this is one of the downfalls in the justice system and with what I've had to go through, that, oh, this is your ex-husband. Oh, this is your ex-husband. And then it kind of just credits you. Like, you know what? It is my ex-husband, actually.
It should make that all the more serious.
Yeah, which I'll get into in the story of even a police officer, kind of blowing it off because of that. So I will just go ahead and dive in. I mean, I could talk for years about my marriage and how bad it was, but let's just start with divorcing, getting to that point. I came from a family where divorce was not a thing and it wasn't an option. It wasn't heard of, like, on all generations. And so just getting divorced is scary, right? Like, it's unknown, and not knowing if you're going to have any support from anybody in a divorce. I was told for many years that, you can leave, but I'm taking you out and you're not going to see the kids and you're not going to have anything. So go for it. That kind of attitude. And, long story short, it got to the point that, okay, take me out, because you're going to go to prison. This is in my head. I'm not saying this to him, but that's fine, because
and
then,
by take you out, you mean
killing me. Yes. And I thought, you know what, if he does, then at least my kids will be safe. At least then my kids will be safe. So my story will start at this point, so 2009. And we were going through a divorce, and he was just enraged. He would just show up to our house and, horrible. It was just horrible. But one specific night he came and he had walked through the door and he had a gun. And I, at first, kind of like blew it off, because he would always kind of just have a gun. Like, for whatever reason. And I mean, it wasn't uncommon for him to kind of threaten that. But then I could see like how furious he was. And he hauled me and my kids into a bathroom on the main floor. And he held the gun up and he said, we were done. We were done. We were done. We were done. My sweet daughter, young daughter at the time, had actually went to go grab a phone and called my parents, who immediately called 911 and got the police at least dispatched. At this point, he realized that my daughter had a phone and that she had made a phone call, and he's like, who did you call? And bless her heart, she was just like, I just called Nana and Papa, I just called Grandma and Grandpa, like her knowing probably the police are called. But then he's like, oh my gosh, and then he starts laughing hysterically. So we go through all these crazy emotions. Luckily the police did get called, and he had started just going out to his truck, and they did stop him out in like he was leaving, so they at least stopped him at the end of the road. And they pulled him over, and so some of the police officers were with us and some were with him, and they asked, like, what happened? And we're like, I mean, he tried to kill us, like, what on earth, Well, they, pulling him over, had said, do you have a weapon? And he said, yes, I have a weapon, but I have a concealed weapons permit. And they all just kind of laughed and joked, the police officers and my ex, and they came back and they were just kind of like, well, yeah, he had a weapon. Like, as all of us are terrified, my kids are terrified. Yeah. And they were just like, well, if you're really like scared, then go get a protective order. Mm-hmm. And this is where you go get a protective order, because there's nothing we can do. He has a concealed weapons permit. Anyways, while we're sitting there, one of the officers pulled up I guess you can pull up if somebody has a concealed weapons permit, and they were like, he doesn't have a concealed weapons permit. Well, mind you, he's gone. And so there we are.
That check after he's already left.
After he's
left.
Which
is helpful.
They left. I mean, he left, and that was it. So there I sit there terrified, and wondering what on earth is going to happen here. And then in my head again, I just thought, okay, it's fine. If he takes me out, he's going to go to prison, and my kids will be okay. Mm-hmm. So that kind of gave me the peace. But I did go. This was like a Friday night, so it was like Monday. I went to go get a protective order. And in there was this sweetest advocate named Julie, and I am going to name her in the story because she comes along later. But Julie sat down with me, and she just said, it's going to be okay. We're going to get you this protective order. And very kind, very loving, very compassionate, very helpful. I was able to get the protective order. But he, over the next couple of years, just violated it over and over again, right? But to me, like, he would go, like, they would arrest him, they would put him in jail for a night and release him the next day. And by that point, like, he had followed us, he had stalked us, he had terrorized us. And the crazy thing is right after we had separated, he already had another girlfriend with 2 young girls immediately. So, take it for what it is. But then I just kept thinking in my mind, okay, he's going to move on to this and he's going to leave us alone. But he didn't. He kept following us. He kept stalking us, kept violating the protective order. And after a while, I'm like, this is a joke. Like, it's just making him more angry every time that he violates this and I invoke it. But Julie, the advocate, she was very like, we're going to take him back. We're going to do this again. When I just was like, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. She goes, you're going to keep doing this? You're going to keep doing this? And after a while, it just got to the point of like, I'm just tired. I'm just tired. I'm not doing this anymore. He still stalked us, still followed us, still made us know. And we, by this time, we lived about an hour and a half from each other, so it wasn't like it was close. Like,
or that it was accidental.
That it was accidental.
Yeah, no.
And this is what I literally cannot believe. In like 2009, people thought I was crazy that anyone would be able to stalk me. And I remember telling people, like, there's got to be a tracker on my car. There's got to be something in my house. Like, how can he know this? And they're like, okay, well, now we're in 2025, and we know it's very possible, right?
Oh, yeah.
Very possible. So fast forward, we're like now to 2017, and I really thought, okay, well, if he's going to do something, he's going to have done it by now. It's fine. This is just my life for the rest of my life. I know that this is what I chose, and guilt too. This is the decision I made. This is the father to my children, and this is what I'm going to have to face and the consequences of it the rest of my life. That was just my thought.
So was this 8 years later?
So yeah, from 2009.
2007.
So then we get to 2017, and
So for 8 years, you're
Oh.
dealing. You have a protective order, but the person you have a protective order against is still stalking and harassing you.
And the
violating
most that
your
ever
protective order.
happened was one night in jail. Like, there were no other repercussions for him violating
well,
that.
he did like serve multiple times at different times, but just for a night. And whatever happens to like doing it over and over again, where's your consequence for that?
No
Should
kidding.
Where's your
increase each
consequence?
time, yeah. Because clearly he's not abiding by the order, doesn't care about it, and doesn't see it as a legal means.
No. Now there's
Okay.
yeah. So what's the fear in it, right?
Yeah.
In fact, and he did not pay child support, and one of the things that I'm going to say this for all the women out there that think that they don't have enough money for an attorney, and because that's a real thing as a single mom, not having enough money to get legal representation. I did it myself because I had gotten an attorney for a divorce, and the money the money is incredible. Like, you're better off just saving the money, but like, I did it myself. So anyone, if I can do it, anyone can do it. You just have to go to the websites and you have to follow the steps. But like, even for child support and the violations of the protective order, you can do these steps. You can do it. You can do it. But one of the things was him not paying child support, and literally his consequences at the court for not paying child support was like a month of jail time, and violating a protective order was like a night. So go figure. So in my head, I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to just keep getting him on this then, right? But 2017 comes, and my son at the time was graduating high school and decided he wanted to serve an LDS mission. Now, being a single mom, that's tough. Like, that is a huge expense. And I was already kind of struggling, and I was like, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? How am I going to pay for this? And out of the blue, I get a call from, and I'm going to call him Thad by his name, that Thad had called. And he said, oh, Riley, who's my son, said that he's going to go on a mission, and I just want you to know, like, I'm going to turn over a new leaf, and I'm going to pay you all the child support that I've owed you over the years. I'm going to pay for his mission, and I'm going to take him and get all the stuff that he needs so that you don't have to worry about that. Okay, in my mind, a miracle had just occurred. A miracle. Like, he's going on a mission, a miracle happened, right? Like, I'm like, this is incredible. Still in the back of my head thinking, this is so out of character. This is too good to be true. But okay, let's just see what happens, right? Let's just see what happens.
I mean, I think most people are raised to like be like, yeah, every day's a fresh start, and like, if people are genuine, if people really are sincere, then you should give them the second chance. Even though in this case it sounds like maybe not the second chance, but that's to my point, that's just how you're raised. Like, don't judge them straight away, like, give people a chance to change, blah blah blah. Anyway,
yeah, and I really
don't
thought
blame
maybe
you.
he had a softened heart. I mean, I know it's way out there, and I look at it now and laugh, thinking, why would that even occur to me? But also, being a single mom and struggling, if you can get help. I know people think, you know, like, even when they hear my story, like, I've had like people being judgmental of like, why would you even? Well, when you're a single mom and this is your child, and this is their father, what else are you going to think, you know? So anyways, he's like, okay, and mind you, by now we're living about 2 hours apart from each other, but he said, I am coming into town and for work because I'm marketing an energy drink. And so this would be a perfect time for me to go take Riley and get the missionary stuff. And then for us to meet so that I can give you, you know, the money and a check and all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, that's great, but you can come to my place where I'm living. Because he was going to come and stay at a hotel, and he kept saying, can you come to the hotel? And I'm like, no, but you can come here. That's great. Come here. Very adamant on come here. So anyways, he did come. He picked up my son. They went and got like 2 things, came back, and I was kind of like, that's all you got? Like, okay. So I'm just thinking, okay. So he comes back with a couple things, and then he was like, okay, well, I forgot the check and the money at the hotel that I'm staying. Will you please just come with me and let's go over it there? I said, no, you can go get it and you can bring it back. Well, we start to argue at this point because that's what we were good at. And my son looked at me and he's like, oh my gosh, Mom. He's like, And mind you, where we were living and the hotel are literally across the street, like across the street. So he was like, Mom, if you go and don't come back in 15 minutes, I will come and get you. Like, stop fighting. He's trying to help. I mean, he's just full on defending his dad at this point. Like, you're being ridiculous. Just go. So I'm like, okay, fine. We'll go. So I jump in the truck and we drive right across the street, like right across the street. I get out and we start walking in, and he looks at me and he goes, I don't know why you are so scared to be with me or make such a big deal with being with me alone. Like, do you think I'm going to kill you or something? Well, I look at him and I said, actually, I do. And he just laughs. So we go walking into his room, and it was like one of those suites. So when you walk in, there's like a table and a chairs and a little kitchenette. Well, right when I walk in, sure enough, there's money on the table. There's the check on the table. There's there was medical bills that I'd asked him for months to pay. Those were there, like ready to be written out checks to pay these medical bills. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, this is truly a miracle. It's a miracle. And so he hands me the money, and then he hands me the check, and then he says, do you want a drink? And I said, no, I don't want a drink. I need to get back. And he's like, no, let's just sit down and have a drink and talk. And I said, I don't want to. I need to get back. And I really did have stuff I needed to get back to. And I was like, no. So he pours me a drink anyways. And I was like, oh no. And in my head, it was the loudest voice, like, don't drink the drink for sure. And I thought, oh yeah, he'll poison me for sure. Yeah. So I didn't. Like, I literally was like kind of fake sipped and put it down. And then I was like, we got to go. We've really got to go. So I grabbed the handle to the door, and I'm ready to go. And he goes, no, remember, I'm here to do this marketing for this energy drink. Will you just try it? Will you just see what it tastes like? It was just like those little 5-hour energies that you see at the store. He turned opened up the top, poured it in a little white cup. And he's like, yeah, just try it. And I'm like, I don't know, still in the back of my head. And he goes, Riley and Tant, who are my two boys, he's like, they both had it. And my youngest was pretty young at the time. And he goes, are you kidding me? Like, they drank it. So I'm like, okay, and I just chugged it, and I was like, oh, wow, that's great. That tastes really good. Like, what is it? What flavor is it? That's all I remember. I don't remember one thing, not even kind of. Like, it was that fast.
Whoa.
It was that fast. And then this is the
So
hard.
it was some
he drugged
drug.
you.
It was something.
Absolutely drugged me.
Yeah.
And this is what is the hardest part for me to ever tell about this story, is because my son Riley was the one that convinced me to go over there. Well, my son Riley, it was about 4 to 5 hours later, desperately, frantically, for those hours, trying to get me home, trying to get me back home. And the guilt that poor kid had to endure. No child should have to ever be put in a situation like that with a parent. So for 4 to 5 hours, like, he constantly was calling, and he even was to the point, like, he's like, well, like, FaceTime me. You show me where my mom is, right? Well,
So he's calling his dad.
Sorry
to interrupt.
Yeah.
He's called because he knows that you went over there. He told you to go over there. It's across the street. So he's trying to find you at this point because you've been gone for hours.
Yes, because he's like, if you're not back in 15 minutes. Yeah. Well, so then his dad, Thad tells him that I had drank with him, and I had gotten drunk, and I had got wasted, and I passed out in the bed. And so he even, like, FaceTime and showed, like, no, she's passed out. Well, my son is like, okay, no, this is way out of character for my mom. This is not my mom. This is not happening with my mom. My mom and dad do not get along. They should not be. Like, everything just kept stirring in his mind, and he kept trying and trying. He goes, I'm going to come get her. Like, at the very end, he's like, you either bring her home or I'm coming to get her. And I'm not joking. Like, this is not a joke anymore. I don't care if she's drunk. I don't care if she's passed out. She needs to come home. So they get me home, and Thad was yelling at Riley, just put her to bed. Put your effing mom to bed and let her be. Like, let her be. So my son puts me, like, in my bed, and thank goodness hands me my cell phone. Thank goodness I even got my cell phone, honestly. And I don't recollect much at all still at this point, except that I remember feeling like I knew I was dying. 100% knew I was dying. And I had my phone in my hand, and I remember thinking, I got to call my mom. Like, I got to call my mom. And so all I knew is I just kept pushing my phone. Well, I honestly know it had to have been some kind of miracle, because it ended up calling my friend who was that lived right next door. And by this time, it's probably like 3 o'clock in the morning. And the fact that she answered the phone call and was up, and she knew I couldn't talk. She knew something was wrong. She couldn't figure out why would I be calling at this time of night. She literally runs as fast as she can, opens up the door. And I got to back up just a little bit, because I had told my 2 boys, like, just the week before, if anything ever happens to me, do not take me to the hospital, no matter what, unless I'm dying, because I don't have medical insurance. So please don't take me to the hospital, no matter what. So even though Riley remembers thinking like something's really wrong with my mom, in his head, he was like, Mom said, do not take her to the hospital. Yeah. Well, so my friend comes busting through the door, and Riley's like, I really don't know what's wrong with her. And my dad said that she's drunk. Like, she's trying to figure out what's going on. He's like, she's drunk. And so she comes over, and I don't even know why she's so smart, but she comes over and breathes, smells my breath. And she's like, there is no alcohol in your mom. There is none, Riley. We need to get her to the hospital. And so then they start to argue, and she's like, Riley? And she's from England, so she had this cute little accent. She's like, she's going to the hospital. We're taking her. So they get me to the hospital, and the next thing I even remember at all is a nurse above me and just talking to my friend and saying, like, she wouldn't have woke up. There's no way she would have woke up if she didn't get here.
Wow.
There's no way. So they start to ask questions. And for anyone out there that has, like, gone through this, it's no joke. You don't remember anything. Yeah. You don't remember one thing. I'm sitting there wondering why I'm sitting in a hospital, right? Like, I'm just like, what on earth is going on? So they start to ask me questions, and I'm like, we're going back through, and I'm like, no, like, I met my ex, and he gave me money. It's in my purse. And, like, of course, no money in my purse, right? And so then they were like, well, do you feel like that you have been raped? Like, do you feel like you have? Like, they're going through all these personal questions, and I'm like, no, like, absolutely not. Well, my sweet little friend is sitting there with my phone trying to, like, figure out what's going on, and somebody had texted back. And she opens it up, and then there's naked photos of me. And what had happened, now that we put the pieces together, is that he had raped me, for number one, but that he had taken photos of me naked, pretending like it was me, texting out men in my phone. And he did make one huge mistake, is he deleted the photos, but they went into the trash, and he forgot to delete the trash. And I guess didn't anticipate these people would text back, because that's a million times out of my character, and being like, why did you send me these photos? So we were able to get those photos back. But in the ones even in the trash, you can see him holding my hand up, pretending like I'm taking a selfie, and I'm naked. So then they're like, you're doing a rape kit. We're doing a blood test, and we're doing all of it.
Oh my gosh.
And I promised all
and
those
that's not a fun experience. I've been through that.
It's not a fun experience. It's very violating. It's very violating.
Extremely invasive.
And I'm really still like, no,
You're in shock,
what is
right?
happening?
Yeah.
What are we doing here? So then they call the police, right? I mean, that's not even my choice. The police officers come, and they're just like, Like, I'm not trying to rip the police department, but literally they didn't even know what to ask. They're just like, what do you think happened? Dude, I don't know what happened. That's why I'm here. And the nurse is like, no, she would not have woke up if she was not here. So it's just kind of like this whole thing that you go through while you're sitting there, and you're still just like, what is happening to me? So finally the officer's like, listen, why don't you just do this? It was like a Friday night, and I remember Monday was a holiday. And so they were like, when you're feeling better, come to the police station and give your police report when you're feeling better. That's how my experience was. So Tuesday morning, I go to the police station, I sit down, and I give my police report. I was there for about probably an hour-ish, and they asked all the questions, and I told them everything, that I was going through a divorce. And this is where I get to the police of like, kind of like, you know, he said a few things that I don't remember, but I definitely remember him saying, well, this seems kind of like a domestic issue. And he's like, I'm so sorry, but like, they just put me over the DARE program, and I need to go take care of the DARE program. So I'll get back to you. And I looked at him and I said, buddy, and I'm not kidding, if you can't do this right, I'm dead. I'm dead. Mind you, I mean, where's that at this point, right? Well, my son had called, I got to back up just a little bit because my son did call him the next morning, early that morning, and they were supposed to go all day and go shopping and do all these things, right? And he said, what did you do to mom? Like, you literally tried to kill her. Like, you know, he's like freaking out now. He's like, you tried to kill her. And he's like, what are you talking about? What are you even talking about? And he goes, she's at the hospital. She's at the hospital. And he's like, I got to go. That's gone. That's completely gone. No arrests, no nothing. He's gone. So that was my experience with the police and what had happened. And then you just sit there and go through, oh my gosh, what just happened? What just freaking happened? So we just didn't know what to do with that. I didn't know what to do with that. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do now? So again, here we are back to, he starts making phone calls. He's like, you're crazy. He's like, I wasn't even in the hotel. Like, I mean, he would just make up all these crazy stories of like, he wasn't even there. He doesn't know what happened. He's like, I'm going to get my guys on it. Like, who are your guys? You know what I mean? So it was just awful. Like, the whole thing was awful. So I end up just, again, like, what am I supposed to do? I'm just supposed to live my life. This is what I'm supposed to do. Well, then I had this wonderful, wonderful, wonderful best friend that she was there that next morning. And she's like, this, he's not going to get away with this. And you're not going to live like this. Every single month for about 2 years. And by this time I had moved, and it took me about an hour to get to the police station. But every month she would call me up and she said, we're going back to the police station and we're going to ask questions and we're going to see what they've done. We're going again. And she would get her pen and her paper and her recorder. And she's like, you're coming. And I'm like, I can't do it. I can't do it anymore. Like, this is just my life and this is how it's going to be. And she's like, nope.
So she wants accountability for where they're at with the case, what they've done, if they've questioned that.
Yep.
And you are coming to it, like, in your mind, you're more at a place of acceptance because everything that you've done to this point has resulted in no protection for you or
Zero.
your kids.
Zero. And
And ultimately ended with you almost dying.
Yeah, exactly.
And I really still, in my mind, I'm thinking, it's okay. It's okay if he takes me out because he will go to prison and my family will raise my kids and they'll be safe. So in my mind, that's just what's in my head. But she didn't let me give up. She didn't let me give up. And she took me month after month. And I was like, Renee, we're not doing this again. We're not going. It's fine. Okay. It gets even better because that police department, every time we went, an officer had been transferred, an officer had gotten fired, the chief of police was fired. We'd go again, oh, that chief of police got fired. Oh, that chief of police. And I know, like, my stories have been on KSL, and that was the one thing when they even went to go do a news story on this police station, 100% turnover. There's nobody even there. So talk about like feeling defeated. Then you're really defeated because you don't even have one officer, one chief of police, nobody left to even hear your story. So I'll tell you, right before this last chief of police had gotten fired, when we had gone in, we sat down with him and he said, I have the best news. We have an advocate that we've hired and she's going to help you and she's going to go over your case and you know, we're just going to kind of give it to her. And this advocate calls me up and I recognize her voice. It was Julie.
From your TPO, your protective order. How amazing.
That many years later. And in a different county. I just think sometimes you just get little breaks in life. So Julie, I'm like, Julie, it's Cami. And she remembered me. And she picked up my file and she said, this isn't a joke. When she came to my office, she looked at me and she said, just remember my face. Because it's not if, it's when. She picked up my case and she went right to the county and filed and with the attorney and she said, this is no joke. This is no joke. And she actually has a protective order, which even in this scenario at the hotel should still been used at that very moment in that time. So charges were filed, they went and filed the charges, and it was an advocate. It was an advocate that has helped me through all of this. So then, well, actually, let's back up, because before that even happened, we have to talk about Paige. Paige is his stepdaughter, and she's allowed me to use her name.
This is Thad's stepdaughter.
Yes.
Yeah, so you said he had been in a relationship and there were two younger girls with the woman he was with. Okay.
Yes. So sorry to backtrack a little bit.
No, yeah.
But before this had happened with the advocate and her filing these charges, I had gotten a phone call that Thad had been arrested. So this is super important, because before these charges were even filed, Thad had gotten arrested, and I got a phone call and said he was arrested. And I'm like, what? Because in my head, I'm like, no, he'll never get arrested. He'll never get arrested for anything that he's ever done. And they're like, yeah, he's been arrested. And I'm like, for what? And they said for a DUI, for attempted kidnapping of his youngest child, and attempted rape of his stepdaughter. And I'm like, no, I have never had communication with this wife. He had married her by now, but these two kids were the wife. I had no communication. And I'm like, I need their number, because there is a case, in this other county that is my case that was filed 2 years ago. And they're like, no, you're joking. And I'm like, no. Which, I'm going to do a little side note. I don't understand why in one state that you can't have one system that is able to pull up any case that has been filed in every county in that state. I don't know why that's not even a probability. Like, that to me is just ridiculous that they didn't even know that was something that had been filed 2 years before.
Yeah.
So he's arrested. And then I had said to the police, we had gone to the police again and again, what are you going to do now? What are you going to do now? And still nothing done. But then when Julie had gotten my file, she's like, this is no joke, because she now knew that there was that. She knew that she had met with me years before, and she knew that this was no joke. Plus, we have all the proof and the evidence. We have the blood test that it was. And this is the thing, too, is that we had talked about that it should have, it was going to be kidnapping and attempted murder. That was going to be the charges. And when it got to the county and they decided, like, okay, what proof and evidence do we have? It already kind of gets reduced, because they're kind of like, okay, well, we can give you, and I can never say the word right, but they were able to charge him with drugging me, but continuously drugging me while I was passed out. Which, the reason why we got that, I should back up again, but when I was at the hospital, underneath my tongue had been burned. And I really, really want to say, like, nurses, when you're doing these on people, check under their tongue every single time, because he continued to put medicine under my tongue to keep me to the level of, like, and honestly, like, everyone that knows me and knows my situation, that was his every intent, was to kill me that night and to just keep putting that medicine under my tongue. And I'm told that is a very, like, place that nobody checks. And so how do you get these drugs in your system, except that I took a drink? So then that's my problem. But they were able, because I had that picture taken, because they looked under my tongue, they had the blood test, then that was one of the charges, and that's a serious crime. And then him distributing my photo, my inappropriate photo, and then the forcible rape charges. So Paige is over here, and she was a child, and I want to share her story. So while my case sits and nobody's doing anything and nobody's hearing me, even though we're going every month and getting the same story of, like, we're working on it. His stepdaughters were drugged and raped over and over and over and over again. That's what breaks my heart, right? Because if somebody would have listened, if somebody would have done something, I'm told by them that started 6 months after he had moved in, when they were little. So at 15, I think the news report says 16, but I'm pretty sure she was 15. That night, he had, same exact thing, had given her something. She was a soccer player, to help her in her, whatever, said, take this little drink. But she said that, she knew that he had done this for years, but she had sipped it and refused to drink it. He kept saying, you got to drink it. You got to drink it. So she sipped it, but then turned and then I guess spit it out. And then he tried to rape her and she fled half naked to the neighbor's house, a child, which that neighbor took her to the hospital. And even with that being said, even her charges were attempted rape, even though that she has told her story that this has happened multiple times, over and over and over again. The one thing, at least in our state, in Utah, unless there's proof and unless there's evidence, there's nothing.
Yeah.
We've had somebody even come forward during all of our stuff, and it happened even years ago by Thad, same situation, giving her something to drink and raped and drugged, and she didn't go to the hospital. And she didn't get the proof and she didn't get the evidence, same with the other girls, right? If you don't have proof, if you don't have evidence, there's nothing about a word. There's nothing you can say, look, this happened to me over and over and over again from the time I was 8 years old. Attempted rape. He got up to 5 years for her. You tell me how that's fair. That's a child.
It's not justice.
I feel like it is.
I feel so many things.
The courts are a legal system, not a justice system. And I feel like when it comes to sex crimes in specific, I wish so bad that instead of being innocent until proven guilty, it should be guilty until proven innocent. Because, for his, I don't even want to say stepdaughter, but for this, for your story, for Paige's story, for this other woman who didn't even get even a day of justice.
Well, she had the best quote too, and I've got to know her through this process too, but she said, everything in our society is based on a justice system. And when that justice system fails, what do we have left? What do we have left? And my biggest thing now too is silence allows more victims.
Absolutely.
100%.
Silence allows more victims. And we have got to keep going, and we have to keep
and
talking.
even in your case, you weren't silent. Your friend brought you in every single week, and even still, she didn't get anything.
Yep.
And it's so, I think all of it is heartbreaking. I think, like you said, the point that has really stuck with me is that you did speak up. You were advocating for yourself, for your family, so that you and your kids would be safe. And everything else that happened after that could have been so preventable. Had the system worked correctly. Had people done their jobs. Had people believed a survivor.
Even if it's your ex-husband.
Yeah,
even if
which
it's your
has
ex-husband.
Zero bearing.
Zero.
On
Yeah, zero.
situation.
Yeah,
So-
it's horrific. And the thing with me is that I literally cannot even believe that this is a child. This is a child. And do you understand, police department, that because you had a DARE program, this child was raped and drugged over and over and over again to the point that she wasn't going to have it happen one more night, and fled naked. I don't know how many 15-year-olds would do that.
That is incredibly brave.
So brave.
So brave.
Incredibly brave.
And I give it to her. I'm I know what I've been through. I know what I have gone through. I can't. I can't when it comes to kids. I can't.
Did he get convicted of his crimes against you?
Well, and here's the thing that makes me furious about the whole thing is, so we had a lot of proof and a lot of evidence, and we were going to trial. Jury was even getting picked.
For your case.
For my case.
Yeah.
Because I still was pretty adamant on even though the charges that he was charged with were equal to attempted rape, or what was it, kidnapping and attempted murder, these were equivalent. So he should have got, if we went to trial, it was 25 to life or nothing at all, right? That's what your odds are if you're going to go to trial. But jury was getting picked. And they called us in and they said, okay, well, we're just going to offer a plea. Mind you, jury's already getting picked. And I said, wait, what? And they're like, yeah, we're not going to trial. We don't think it's going to go well. And maybe if it does, but then what if it doesn't? You're not going to get any time. So we're going to offer a plea, and you're going to get like up to 15 years, right? So up to 5 for each, and not served, or to serve consecutive, not concurrent, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So this is good. This is really good, because this is what you're going to get, like for sure. This is guaranteed if we offer this plea. And that's the thing that I feel very violated by this now that I look back at it, because why, like, if I want to go to trial and I feel confident on going to trial, let me go to trial. Let me go to trial. And I think that every single time, and everyone I've talked to that's had similar situations, you have to offer a plea. You have to offer a plea. That's what they make you do in this justice system. So I'm like, okay, we're backed into a corner. We're going to offer this plea up to 15 years. We go to the sentencing. We get a sentence. We're just so happy, because I'm like, he was charged with all of it, up to 15 years. We're good. We're fine. We're great. This is awesome. After the sentencing, the attorney put us in a room. There was about 15 of us in there at the time. And he's like, you guys, like, just go home and go to sleep. Like, you won't even have to think about a parole hearing for at least 4 years. At least 4 years. So just go home. We won. This is great. And I even turned around and looked at him and I said, yeah, but with Paige, there was a parole hearing right after, and we all had to go. And he's like, no, that's not a thing. Like, it's 4 years for sure. Like, don't even worry about it. And they'll notify you. Now, in the justice system, I do want to bring this up, because this is something that I've talked about on the news. So when you go through this process, you are to register with Vine.
Yeah.
And Vine notifies you about parole hearings. Vine notifies you if they're ever transferred, if they're ever moved, if they're going to be released. It comes as a text, an email, a phone call, and it will continuously call. It's a great system. It's a great system. But it is not the parole board. And this is what we learned the hard way. They're not even the same people. And so I don't remember exactly the date, but I think this was October. And then we got, I don't even think it was like, not that long. Like, I'm telling you, like maybe a month or two. And we get a notification that he's getting released in February. So we're October,
Wait,
January, February, like just a few months later, right?
Oh
yeah,
my
like he's getting
gosh.
released. He's getting released.
Like, it wasn't even a hearing, it was a release.
Yeah. How?
So did he serve the sentence for the charges against Paige?
Yes, and because of COVID. I will thank COVID for this every day. Because of COVID, everything with mine kept getting delayed. He couldn't get released. So even though she only got up to 5 years, darn straight, she got 5 years. And she got every day of those 5 years. Thank goodness to COVID. So we're sentenced. We're good. We're living our life. Vine text. He had a parole hearing, and he's getting released after like a couple months. And I was like, this is a joke. This is a mistake. Everyone calm down. Like, this is just something, because, he's probably up for Paige, because here it's 5 years.
It's up for the 5 years.
So it's up for the 5 years.
Okay.
He's had a parole hearing for Paige. This is why this happened, right? So I'm making a phone call. I'm desperate. And mind you, like, I will be forever grateful for KSL News and Daniela Rivera. She picked up my story, and she's incredible. She's amazing. She's been doing a story on failure to protect for the last couple of years. And man, if there's a fighter, it's Daniela Rivera, and she's amazing. She picked up my story along all of this because of the things that we had to go through. And man, she called up as fast as she could get a phone and was like, no. Because she had actually even come to our sentencing and everything. So she'd been a part of our story all along. Anyways, they're like, no, he's getting released. There was a hearing. Thanks.
And you were never notified of the hearing?
Never notified.
And this is a convicted rapist of you and a child.
An attempted kidnapping.
Drugging, yeah.
Yeah.
And they had a parole hearing and didn't notify anybody. Because the thing is if you're a victim, you're a victim of him, right? So anyone like Paige, her grandmother, me, his mom, which, by the way, I am going to shout out to his mom, because she sat with us through every single step of the way with us, and she's amazing. And she's fought and wrote letters to keep her son in prison. So imagine what kind of a person he is. Wow. So they... I'm like, there's no notification. And so they called me back, and they're like, oh, the letter we sent out was returned, and we don't have your address. And I'm like, what do you mean you don't have my address? And they're like, yeah, we don't have anything. And I'm like, well, that's really bizarre, because you know what? Vine can text me. Vine can get a hold of me. Vine definitely let me know that there was a hearing. And Vine let me know that he's getting released, this is where I find out that the parole board, the Utah Parole Board, is not Vine. They do not work together. They do not work hand in hand. They get the information after the fact. And the excuse for the parole board was that they didn't have my information. So we get on,
What's their excuse for letting him out? What's their excuse for even hearing?
Don't you even worry, because I was just at this point like, this is not, this can't be real. This cannot be possible. So we did call the courthouse, and they had it all right there. My name, my address, my phone number, everything was there, all the contact information. As I'm talking to the parole board, they're just like, we didn't have it, and your letter was returned. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't really care at this point, but I need another hearing, because this is not fair. You didn't even give us the opportunity to be there. So I'm like, and then Daniela also helped me get a copy of the hearing that they had. And I will tell you that the very, 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 very most important thing in the state of Utah is, after sentencing, that you find out when that parole hearing is and you attend. You attend. I don't care if how hard it is to tell your story again, but if you are not there and you don't tell your story and you don't get all the letters that you have written, when you're going through this whole process, if you don't have those sent over, then they will absolutely be released. They will absolutely be released. We got the copy of the hearing. It was about, 6 minutes long. Had him stand before them, asked, or I guess it's one little guy up there, and they just said, did you get your packet? Did you do your classes? What have you done to get out? Now,
What have you done to get out?
Mind you, this is a
not funny to stay
pathological
in.
liar. And they are taking his word. He has his packet. He did his class. They even apologized to him about COVID and having to postpone some of his classes and not getting them done soon enough. Mind you, he's in here for freaking a child that he raped over and over and over again. And they take his word. Released. Gone. You're out in February.
So in February, he actually did get released.
No.
Okay.
No. Because I will absolutely, like I said, forever and ever and ever and ever and ever be thankful for Daniela Rivera and KSL News. We got another hearing. And I personally never think that you should have to have a news station and a news story to be able to get another hearing because you weren't notified. But we were granted another hearing. We showed up, and this makes me cry, and this is the sweatshirts that we all wore to that hearing, and it's Still I Rise. But that room was filled at that parole hearing. And those people were not necessarily there just for me. I mean, obviously they were there to support me and to love me. But during that, I had asked the question, and the room was completely full, not to mention hundreds of letters that were sent in our behalf, but all for their own personal reasons as well. And I asked the question, I said, everyone in this room, in this hearing, if you've ever been violated by Thad, and I said Byron Thad Hatterley, either financially, physically, sexually, emotionally, please stand up. There wasn't one person in that room that didn't stand up. And I looked around in that room and I thought, this one person has caused this much damage to this many people. I saw another stepdaughter sitting in the room sobbing that will never, ever, ever see justice with no evidence and proof. Paige stood up there with me. I think she's just the bravest soul alive. And she had to tell her story again. So if Paige can stand up and tell her story again, everyone can stand up and tell their story again. And it is the only way that the parole board hears your story. Recently in December, I sat with the parole board, with attorneys, with advocates up at the Capitol, and we were having a discussion on how to better notify victims is what it was about. But the information, we're all sitting there dumbfounded because, the victims, and I actually think I call myself a survivor, not a victim. But when we told our story and how important it is to attend these parole hearings, even the attorneys that were sitting there, the advocates that were sitting there, what was brought up is, and I had said, I'm like, here's the difference between the parole hearing he had that we weren't notified and the parole hearing that we had because we were proactive and asked for another one. And this one lasted an hour and a half, a room full of people that didn't want to see him released. And another one that lasted 6 months asking him what he had done to get out. And he had an up to 15-year sentence and he's getting out in months. And I've heard this story over and over and over again about everyone's like, oh, he, you know, and you see it on the news, oh, he was convicted, he was charged, he was sentenced. We never hear that they were released immediately because there was a parole hearing that you probably weren't notified of, or you didn't understand the process in Utah of how important it is to go to the parole hearing. And I even asked Jennifer Yin, like, let everyone know, like, you are not opening up this file. You're not going over why they're standing there. That's not your job. That's not what the parole board's about. And she admitted it. And she said, no, we don't review that. We don't go over that. No, that's not their job. Their job is to get these people in front of them and to get them out. That's their job. So unless you are there and you tell your story again, in Utah, it does not end at sentencing. And every attorney in the state of Utah, every advocate, you have got to tell your victims that it doesn't end today. There is going to be a parole hearing. And do not count on that the Vine's going to notify you. Don't count on that the parole board is going to call you. You have got to be proactive. You've got to get on the website. You've got to find out where these, you know, when this is going to be heard, and you have to do it all over again. It sucks. I didn't want to do it. Paige didn't have to do it. But she stood up and she did it. And it made all the difference. We still don't know. All that happened, though, is that we are postponed until 2027. But it's postponed till 2027.
So it's
He's not released.
2 more years he'll be in jail.
And then we'll have another hearing. But even for me now, like, even sitting at that panel up at the Capitol, they are trying to make changes, and I appreciate that they're trying to make changes. They are trying to work with Vine to have a better system so that you're notified immediately or before. But I cannot stress enough how important it is to be proactive. You are the only person that's going to save you. You are the only person that's going to save you. You have got to, and now, even now, I don't know, like, you never know if there's going to be a parole hearing just pop up. So every Sunday night is my ritual now that I get on the parole board website and I make sure that there's not another hearing, because it was so vital. And the other thing that I don't think people understand is, like, when you're going through it all, you're asked to send letters to the judge, right? Well, those letters probably aren't going to go in your file and get sent over to the parole board. So you have to call and make sure that your letters go with your file, and that the parole board has received. You make these phone calls, you call, you ask, have you gotten all these letters? And you have to make sure that they have the letters. And I don't care who you are. If you are already going through all of this, then you better do the one last step. Because if you don't do that one last step, they will absolutely serve no time. And you already have charges that you think are going to happen. Then you have to offer a plea that reduces the sentence even worse. And then I'm like, even sitting here like, you guys told me not to go to trial because I might not get nothing. I got nothing. I got nothing right here. He's getting out. I mean, I literally called, and thank goodness they were so kind. And even the attorneys were writing letters like that. We didn't know. And sitting at the Capitol with those attorneys, with those advocates, they had no idea. So if they don't know, how are we supposed to know? And I'm here to tell you, you have got to call. You have got to be proactive. You've got to find out when those parole hearings are. And you have to stand up and you have to tell your story one more time. One more time. Because I think it is so important that we keep these people where they belong. They already are getting a reduced sentence to a fraction already. To me, 2 years is like my whole life. 2 years is my whole life.
I mean, and to our listeners who are not in the state of Utah, who aren't even in America, don't just walk away from your case. Even if you think the perpetrator has ended up in prison, don't just walk away from the case. Stay on top of it. Stay aware. Stay involved.
And you find a friend. You find a friend that will, like my friend Renee, that did not let me give up. It's hard. I'm the first person to say it is the hardest thing to keep going. We're like 2007, we're 2025. I still have to go back in 2027. But I'll do it because you know what? There's another page out there. there's another Paige out there. And I'm not going to let there be another Paige. I may not be able to stop all these predators. I may not be able to stop even 2, but I can stop 1. I can stop 1. And he's got a daughter that's 13 years old, and that was the one thing that I pled. I pled that you keep him in until she's 18 years old.
Wow.
Because there's not going to be another one in our family.
How do you find the strength? I think a lot of people would become exhausted and would be like, this is just emotionally too much. I cannot keep re-victimizing myself. What do you have a process? Do you have something to like turn to that you do as a ritual afterwards? I mean, what do you do?
Well, I think for me, because I'm a mom, and I feel like I'm just that mama bear, like it's just a natural instinct, right? And I, even though that my 3 kids are adults, right? Like I look and for what my 3 kids have been through, they are so incredible, and they keep me going. And how amazing is that? Because that's their dad. We don't call him dad anymore, but that is their dad. And they are my strength, and they are the ones that, you know, keep me going. But when I look at his little girl that's not even mine, and I look at Paige, and I look at Kylie, 3 kids that aren't mine, no way am I going to let that happen again. No way am I going to let that happen again. And I think for me mentally, I mean, I was given the greatest gift of all, to have a best friend that's a real life therapist. He knew I'd be too poor to get therapy, but she's amazing. And if you, even just a best friend, even if it's a child, even, you know, if it's a parent, if it's an aunt, if it's a sister, somebody, you know, that just listens. Don't say anything, just listen.
Yeah.
Just listen. But I also think, you know, I have a physical outlet of like, I like to hike, I like to ski, I like to work out. My kids joke that, you know, every night after work, oh, Mom's at the gym. You can't tell, but I'm always at the gym. But I think that there is something connected mentally when you have a physical activity. And to me it is. It's just, I got to go. And I laugh because I know you were a runner, and through it all, like I would run. And I don't know if that is just, you know, something that I don't even know what to say, except it was very therapeutic. And when I run, I feel good. I feel better. And it releases whatever I need to release. And I mean, I'm getting older, and so now I'm like on the elliptical, like, you know, as hard as I can go. But it releases it. And I know that this is my life, but I also feel like, you know what, this is my life. This is what I am here to do, and I'm here to protect 6 kids. And if that's all I'm here to do, I'm here to protect 6 kids. And I will stop this one person from ever hurting one more person.
Well, I think it's not just 6 kids that you're protecting. I mean, by talking about this, by sharing your story, I think it is going to touch so many people, Cami, and it's going to inform so many people who maybe have charges against their abuser or their perpetrator, and it's going to teach them what to do and how to navigate that system. And I just want to say I'm so sorry that the system failed you in this huge way, that so many parts of the system failed you in this huge way, because not only did they fail you and they failed your family and his other victims, right, but so many other people, because their job is to protect society, right? It's not like, it's absolutely about protecting you and keeping your family safe and bringing and giving you some sense of peace and justice, right? That's important. But what's also important, and the parole board and the reasons for systems like that, is to protect society and to keep society safe from someone who could potentially re-victimize those 6 kids, but also other people. And so it's so, all of this is so heartbreaking, but also so inspiring, because you haven't given up. Like, your strength and resilience are such an inspiration. And just even sitting here and talking with you now, I'm like, there's nothing that will stop this woman. Like, she has dedicated her life to making sure that her family and these other kids are safe, but also so many others, Cami. Like, so many others that you won't even know, and we might not even know. So I just want to say, like, I think we won't even know the impact of that and the ripple effect of doing that. So keep doing what you're doing. Because I think it's really quite an inspiration.
Thank you.
It really is. And for you to say that, like, everyone in the room stood up when you asked the question, like, who has been victimized? If he was out, how many more rooms full of people would he be victimizing? So, again, to Heather's point, like, you are protecting way more than six children or 6 other people. Like, how many more roomfuls of people are you protecting?
And I think this is just such an important issue when we talk about awareness and education on sexual assault. These are the kinds of things that we talk about in policy changes. I think the systems are there, but oftentimes they are failing those who, and they're failing all of us, really. I mean, truly, failing society in this way. And I often just think it's such a disservice that we do to survivors going through, because you have learned to navigate that system. Like, I was in awe when you, at the beginning of your story, when you were like, I represented myself. Like, I had to learn how to do this. That is, I mean, so many people wouldn't even know, and it's so intimidating. You're traumatized by what you've already been through, and for you to have to learn something else and to do this because the system has not protected you or provided you with the legal representation that you need is just, it is insane to me. And I think it's so incredible that you were willing to go. I mean, your whole story is about going above and beyond, and your drive to do that, and your strength and persistence and perseverance. But it's so, I think when we think about policy changes, we've just covered about a dozen right here that need to happen to make society a safer place, to keep survivors safe. So I just think that has brought up, I think, so many, like, we could talk for hours about all of the examples that you've provided in which the system was not a system of justice, to your point.
Actually, I'm struggling really to think of anyone we've interviewed or even just met who has had an easy journey through the legal system. I don't think I've met anyone who has ever said it was easy or it worked smoothly or it was in their favor. And so I think, I mean, I've heard people be like, oh, it's not even worth it. Like, I understand why so many victims are like, I just can't do it. Like, I can't do it. It's too hard. But I think, like, your persistence and, like, your story and the stories that we do share about the legal system, it is so important that we keep on trying, because we'll never be able to change it unless we do fight for our victims, for our victim rights, so that hopefully one day we do get to a better place with a better justice system, that it's not failing victims, and it will be because so many victims before fought that system to make it better.
Well, and I want to say too, I want to bring this up, is that the one thing that I think is so important for everyone to know and to hear today is that we believe you. And I'm going to bring it up because back when I didn't even know I would ever meet you or come across you, this shirt hung in my closet where I could see it every day. And it represents that somebody believes me. Somebody believes me. And I think that anyone out there, even right now, like, we believe you. When a police officer doesn't believe you, when the justice system is failing you, when you're gonna give up, we believe you, we believe in you, and don't be quiet. Don't be quiet. Keep going, because we don't want any more victims. Like, even if the system is failing us, we still have really loud voices that we can unite together.
You're not alone.
We've got social media, for heaven's sakes, you know? If somebody Googles Byron Thad Hatterley, you can darn straight know what he did and where he's been and where he's going. And that's how it should be for every person.
Where he stays forever.
But that's who it should be for every single victim out there. And don't give up. And I know the one thing that I heard at this, you know, when we were meeting with these people at the Capitol, the attorneys were like, you know, our victims just don't want to, you know, they don't want to do it again. It's too emotional. You have to do it again. One more time. Just do it one more time. Because maybe that's one more year. And that's 5 victims that didn't happen that year.
It is hard. It is brutal. And it is emotional. I mean, we've just sat here. You've shared your story. Like, anyone who listens to this will know how hard it was. Like, I've been through it. It is hard. It is brutal. It is uncomfortable. But like, life is not, for all the good things life should be, it's also not easy. And either way, you're going to struggle. So struggle for the right reason. Struggle to make sure that it's not happening to someone else again. Struggle, to fight for what's right.
Well, you even it said in your last podcast, your kidnapping didn't need to happen.
Yeah, it didn't.
Paige's rape didn't need to happen. Like, I feel like if
your story should not have happened.
it shouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
I mean, really, because even the lady, even long ago, and she was too afraid, and bless her heart, she was scared to death. Yeah. But again, silence leads to more victims. And if you can just realize, like, what if you saved one little girl? What if you saved one little boy? What if?
Because their behaviors escalate, and it's a pattern of behavior, and it's not just ever one. Like, I think out of all the stories that we've heard, like, it is not the first time, it is not the only one.
I was not the first victim of my captor. You were not the first victim.
And I feel like that is the thing too, right? Like, the statistics are even that more likely than not, they're going to reoffend.
Absolutely.
So why are we just teaching them a class and having them stand in front of the parole board and ask what they've done and if they have their packet?
Yeah, it's not enough.
No,
it's not enough.
Yeah. What brings you hope today?
Yeah.
That I'm alive today. I know, like, I don't talk about this a lot, but sometimes you feel that guilt of, like, why am I still here? Why was I the one that was able to wake up that next morning? And I really struggled with it for a few years. But I tell you what, like, every time I look at my kids, and I have a grandbaby now, and I look at little McCrae, and I look at my kids, and I think, you know what? We broke the chain. And I'm here today because my voice is going to be heard.
Yep.
My voice is going to be heard. And I look at that little boy, so fresh and so new, and, if you're a mom, like, you just think, you'll do anything in the world to protect that kid. Yeah. My adult kids, I will do anything in this world to protect them. And I just think, what? We're all here, and we're all united, and we stand together against him. And that's powerful. When back little me, when I was in my 20s, thinking, how am I going to do this? I'm 51, and I did it.
You did. And your voice will be heard. And I just thank you for trusting us to be a part of your story and being willing to come here and be so open and honest and vulnerable and share all of that. Because, like I said, your voice will be heard, your story will be heard. It will touch it's impossible for any of our listeners to hear any part of your story and not be incredibly moved. And I hope angry in a way to make change and to make action and to do something and to be a part of the solution. So, thank you.
Yes. Thank you.
That's it for today's episode of Smart Talks, brought to you by the Elizabeth Smart Foundation. Thanks for joining us as we dive into these important conversations about creating a safer, more compassionate world. We hope that what you've heard challenges you to think deeply, feel more compassionately, and see the world through the powerful lens of a survivor's truth. If today's episode resonated with you, or if you know someone who would benefit from hearing this, please share it with them and consider subscribing. And leave us a review wherever you're listening. We'd love to hear from you. Connect with us on social media. You'll find us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. This podcast is made possible by listeners like you. If you would like to support, you can make a one-time or recurring donation of any amount at elizabethsmartfoundation.org/donate. You can also find more resources and ways to get involved on our website. Thank you for listening and being a part of a community that listens, believes, and works together to create a future where no one has to suffer in silence.